So chapter 4 is on love and loving relationships. And of course, talking about marriage and family, this is a cornerstone of what most people believe is what makes family up. What is love? Well, this is a super complicated question that poets and scientists have been struggling with for since people could write things down. It's a very difficult question to answer. It can generally be defined as a strong affection for one another arising out of kinship or personal ties, attraction based on sexual desire, and affection based on admiration, benevolence, or common interests. It's a very clinical definition, but it's at least the starting point. Some people see love as attachment, that is, connecting to someone else. Attachment theory, which has only been around for the last 20 years or so, is a theory that postulates that the way in which infants form attachments early in life will affect their relationships throughout life. And it started back with John Bowlby in the 1940s and moved to Mary Ainsworth, Harry Harlow, and others. Attachment in children is really important. In fact, attachment in any mammal, not necessarily reptiles or fish, but mammals is really important. Secure attachment, of course, is what most parents hope their children have, is an attachment where the infant feels safe when the mother is out of sight. They don't panic. Anxious ambivalent attachment is kind of the converse of that, the attachment type where the infant becomes nervous when the parent leaves the room and shows rejection or can show rejection when the parent returns. It's almost like they're indifferent. Avoidant attachments is an attachment type where the infant shows little attachment to either the primary parents, the mother or the father. And of course, as a clinician, adult romantic attachments are based on early childhood attachments. Adult romantic relationships correspond to the infant's attachment styles. This isn't necessarily proven empirically, but it's a good starting point. So as a clinician, you work with people who maybe have an ambivalent attachment and deal with issues that come up surrounding that. Love and images of love over history are different. They're not the same for ancient Greeks and Romans as they are today. We very much romanticize love. Early Christianity did not associate love with marriage. Remember, this is part of the Dark Ages too. And 12th century, during the Middle Ages, were precursor to the notion of what love is, the romantic bard. Images of love continue into modern day or post-Middle Ages. The poetic style of love, where troubadours would write songs of unrequited love and present them at court to the aristocratic or royal masters. A very romanticized, even though this was probably the most violent time in human history. More recently, in the 19th century, we feminized love, making it associated with the private work of women in their homes, namely nurturing and caring for husband and children. When asked what were the most important features of love, they included from number 1 down to number 12, trust, care, honesty, friendship, respect, desire to promote the well-being of the other, loyalty, commitment, acceptance of the other without wanting to change them, support, desire to be in the other's company, and consideration of the interests of the other person. Maybe there's some that you might add or argue with, but certainly trust is at the foundation. Contemporary love is more about romance. Romantic love is a type of love that is characterized by passion, melodrama, and excitement, which receives a lot of media attention. Movies are around these sorts of themes. And then there's companionate love, which is a type of love that grows over time, is based on a strong commitment, friendship, and trust, which of course, this is leading into theories of love. Some of these theories are biological and chemical in nature, that is caused by hormones and other chemistries that affect the brain. Social biologists see it as an evolutionary process, that all humans and other mammals have instinctive impulses to pass on their genetic material. Doesn't sound very romantic. Or a biochemical perspective of love, where humans are attracted to certain types of people, at which point their brain releases natural chemicals, which we know are true, that gives us a rush we experience as sexual attraction. Very complex processes. The micro level of perspective of love is different than the macro level. Sternberg, of course, Robert Sternberg had this theory he called the triangular theory. Each leg of the triangle stands for one element of what he called love. One was intimacy, that is the willingness to be close to somebody else and share your life. Passion, which is the physical part of it, whether it's sexual intercourse or even having an argument. And commitment, the willingness to stay in a relationship no matter what. And they're depicted, of course, the purple, red, and green are all different. Commitment being green, passion being red, and purple being intimacy. It's a little confusing with the points on the ends, but think of each side as one aspect. If you do that, then you can have at least 8 different types of love, going from non-love, which you have none of them, all the way to consummate love, which you have all of them. Maybe you've been in a relationship where you've loved somebody, or maybe you see your parents, or your grandparents, or maybe friends. You can typically see which type of love is present by what kinds of behaviors are present. There are other theories of love, like John Lee's, where he categorized love as having 6 different types of attractiveness toward one another. Or the Rice's wheel of love, which is the only one of these, by the way, that is developmental in nature. That is, that it moves. It can move from establishing a rapport to self-revelation, that is telling things about yourself, to being mutually dependent on other people, and finally to fulfilling each other's needs. So these styles seem like an amalgamation of maybe 6 different types. Include eros, which is passionate. And remember, he reviewed thousands of articles, so that's where he got this from. Storge, which is companionate love, maybe corresponds to Sternberg's triangle. Pragma, which is more practical or sensible. Ludus, which is what happens early in a love cycle, where a person's playful and carefree. Agape, which is maybe something you have for other people, being kind and patient. What we might call brotherly love. And of course, mania, which is obsessive and a possessive type of love, which may or may not be healthy. Here's the depiction of Rice's wheel, going from rapport to self-revelation to dependency to personal needs, and around it goes. Keep in mind, though, that this theory could go backwards as well. So the person may not only experience moving forward, but also moving backwards, and that does happen. On a macro perspective of love, most cultures try to control the development of love. That they suggest that all societies have some ways of either impeding or slowing down how quickly people get into love situations. A modern day example of how cultures control love would be India and arranged marriages. A dowry, of course, is the financial gift given by the woman's parents as a down payment on the husband taking care of his partner or their child. And of course, you can read about single men, single women, and their relationship interests, what men and women will look for in a relationship. How we experience love is different between the sexes and the genders. So men are more likely than women to be in or looking for a committed relationship, whereas men report falling in love sooner and with more people than women do. and women are more preoccupied with love than men are than women are. Same-sex love is pretty much the same. Primary difference across sex and love is that prejudice and discrimination, once again, leveled toward the same-sex couple. Unrequited love, of course, is when one person's feelings are not reciprocated by the other person in the relationship. Jealousy, of course, is the downside of a loving relationship. It can be pathological. Sometimes it's rational, where someone does something that makes a person feel jealous, and sometimes it can be very irrational, almost bordering on mental illness. If it's irrational, it can come out of one person's own insecurities. Men are more likely to deny their jealous feelings than women are, and women are more likely to acknowledge them. The downside also includes controlling behaviors, where the person engages in things like stalking, which is conducting direct or even indirect at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to be fearful. Cyber stalking, of course, is taking stalking to the cyber age, using electronic technology to do that. This table lists some of the types of stalking behaviors as of 2015, including unwanted phone calls, unwanted letters or emails, spreading rumors, following or spying, showing up at the person's place of work, waiting for the victim, or leaving unwanted presents. And of course, it also involves other types of monitoring, including things on email and electronic messaging. And of course, sometimes it's just hard breaking up. It's the most influenced by macro and micro level factors, not only the day-to-day interactions between the two people, but also media and cultural aspects as well.